Hey there, guys. Today I'm going to show you how to consistently set up suplex opportunities on the enemies. This was not found by me, this was found by my friend Ether, and it essentially involves using the focus reticle system and shooting enemies in a very specific way during very specific animations in order to set up the flinch animation where you shoot them in the leg, they kneel down, and then you can punish them with a frontal melee attack or a suplex. It seems to only set up those particular animations. I don't think it's useful for setting up head stun melee attacks, but let me just demonstrate real quick. And I am on professional difficulty. The pistol I am using is unupgraded to showcase how consistent this method is. And bear in mind, the method I'm going to show you is very awkward to do, and it really only works if you have a lot of space between yourself and other enemies. And it can also work against enemies that choose to go after Ashley, because essentially, the animation I'm going to take advantage of is the sprint animation that the enemies do. And because of how fucking awkward the enemies are on this game, where they sprint and then they go back into a walking state, and it just happens very sporadically, this is why this method is very awkward. And also, you have to wait until the enemies exit the startup frames of their sprint animation, and you have to shoot them during a neutral state of running in the stomach area to put them into a flinch animation that allows you to then shoot them in the leg and put them into a suplex opportunity. But it's better that I demonstrate it rather than say it. So let's test it on this enemy right here. So we'll wait for her to run. There you go, you see that? You notice how I didn't shoot her immediately? It's because she was in the startup frames, and when I'm talking about the startup frames, I mean the animation that sets up the real sprint. So when she's building up momentum to start her sprint, that represents the startup frame period, and then you have to wait sometime after she finishes building up her momentum to actually shoot her during her neutral state, because the startup frames of the sprint animation kind of extend into the neutral state of running. It's very broken with this game and pretty buggy, but I shot her in the stomach area, and it puts her into this particular flinch animation. So watch this. And also, you cannot initiate the leg stun when the enemies are doing attack animations. You have to make sure that the enemy is not in an attack animation, and they're just basically in a neutral state of not really doing anything. They're just recovering from their attack animation. You don't have to wait for them to do the attack animation. You can shoot them in the leg after you do the focus shot, and that's something I forgot to mention. When I shot her in the stomach area, I made sure to focus my reticle, and because I focus my reticle, and for some reason this game tries to tie focusing your reticle to stuns for bizarre reasons, such gamey reasons that just make the game even more awkward than it needs to be, this is essentially important. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm using the focus reticle system and shooting her during that sprint animation in the stomach area to significantly decrease her stun HP. And the leg stun is only triggered once the enemy reaches 0 in their stun HP, or maybe once the stun HP gets to 0 and you shoot her in the leg. That's when the stun animation is triggered. I don't know how the stun HP works in this game. It's very fucking weird. But anyway, let's continue on with this. So watch. I'm going to knife her in the leg. See? Got the flinch animation. So again, I focused my reticle. I shot her while she was sprinting in the stomach area to put her into that flinch animation. And pretty much, her stun HP was just low enough to allow me to knife her in the leg so long as she's not in any kind of active animation, like an attack animation. She has to be in a normal state of walking or just doing nothing. And I have to knife her in the leg or shoot her in the leg. And it puts her into that suplex setup animation. And of course, I have to navigate around her and hope that I don't get bad detection, because the Suplexes detection is god-awful on this game, and I don't understand how Resident Evil 5, a game from 2009, could have better suplex detection or back melee detection than this game from 2023. But let's try again. So I'm gonna demonstrate this again with this guy. This guy will always go after Ashley. And because he's an enemy that only goes after Ashley, there's no hesitation on his part with when he chooses to start or stop sprinting. He's going to be consistently sprinting the entire time, and he will not stop in the middle of his sprint until he gets to Ashley. So once again, I need to set up my reticle so that it's focused. I'm going to shoot him in the stomach area. There we go. That right there, I can't tell if I focus my reticle or not because the slightest movement of your camera is enough to take off your focus reticle, and it's so fucking strict. Like, I had the analog stick drift issue on one of my controllers, and the analog drift issue was all it took for my reticle to not be focused the entire time, and it was very broken. The sensitivity on when the reticle unfocuses is really dumb, but I think what happened there is my reticle stopped focusing, and so I didn't get the correct amount of stun HP reduced. So that's why it was a little bit awkward. That, or it could be the poor hit detection on the knife, because when you're standing close to enemies and Leon does the stab animation, the hit detection between the knife and the specific body part is very awkward, because even though I was aiming at the leg, he was prioritizing the wrong part of the body. It's very, very weird and badly designed. But let's try this again. Or he's prioritizing me right now. So I have to get away from him. Give me a second. I don't know if that was the correct animation. I'll have to see in a moment. Well, I still got it anyway. So again, like, his stun HP was reduced to the point where I could actually hit his leg and set up the suplex, but you'll notice that he did the incorrect flinch animation. He was inspecting his shoulder rather than doing the animation that he's supposed to do when he's stumbling back from the kinetic energy of the bullet while he was sprinting. But I don't know if the type of flinch animation he goes into is actually important when you're actually reducing the stun HP to set up the suplex animation. But let's test it on this guy. This guy will come after me if I go to a specific part of this area here. Yeah, he's coming right now, so I'm gonna back up. I need to get as far away as possible. And there's also this guy. And that right there, you might have noticed that I didn't even focus my reticle when I shot him in the stomach, and when I did the leg shot, I got the stun animation. There are times when it does work without needing to focus your reticle. I don't really understand how the stun HP works on this game. I don't know if it works off of Resident Evil 1 Remake, where the enemy HP is randomized for some reason every single playthrough. It doesn't add anything, it's just a really stupid feature. Is this randomization system on the stun HP something that is also applied to the enemy HP? Because the standard enemy HP is randomized in this game, so maybe the stun HP is affected as well. But why, though? Why would it do that? That's just dumb. But at times you will get the setup for the suplex, even when you're not focusing your reticle. And see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, the enemies, they stop in the middle of their sprint so much when they're prioritizing you. And, like, they have to make the game so fucking awkward with the way the flinch animations work. Why are they trying to make their gameplay so awkward with the different animations you have to punish? And then on the other side of the coin, you have random stuns that just occur sporadically with the guns on this game, and it just makes the game so fucking awkward, and it only contributes to more poor designs, and it complements existing poor designs. But I digress. I just need to demonstrate this one more time. But focusing your reticle, it's very awkward to do when enemies are very close to you. I might as well just not focus my reticle, honestly. There's the stun. I'm just gonna bait out his attack animation. I think that only worked because of the pre-existing damage that was already occurring with him. But I'll test it out on this guy next. This guy right here, who's coming after us, He's always going to prioritize Ashley, and he's not going to hesitate with his sprinting whatsoever. There we go. See what I mean? See how consistent this is? And why it's also very awkward, because you have to make sure the enemy's sprinting, and when they choose to stop sprinting is entirely random, and just makes no fucking sense, because that's not how physics work. The original version of Resident Evil 4 understood physics. The way the enemies react to bullets, like actual good feedback, but this game is just so fucking gamey and artificial and so contrived with its mechanics that it just leads to a very awkward gameplay experience. To return to the main tangent, this mechanic can also be very useful during other combat encounters, and I'll demonstrate it with the next combat encounter coming up when we meet Ramon for the first time. But if you're wondering why the sprint animation is so crucial, it's always been a mechanic in Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, in this game as well apparently. But you can shoot enemies in the leg while they're running and they will fall over. And also in these games, shooting enemies in the torso area while they're sprinting in Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, and this remake, it also contributes to other consistent stuns as well. Only with this game, it's just even more awkward because a lot of it is just dependent upon random stuns and very poor damage calculations. Very sporadic calculations with how the AI system that governs the stuns is calculating it. But that's essentially why the sprint animation is important, because the sprint animation that the enemies go into, and it's really only with certain enemies, like with the regular Ganado, the Zealots, or the Mercenary Ganado, the sprint animation has importance in these kind of games, with eliciting certain flinch animations. But let me show you a technique that I often use when I'm trying to go through this game on this really crap difficulty. But in certain combat encounters, you can rely upon leashing, where you essentially exit the playable area for the enemies, and they will turn around at a certain point and start running. Oh, that was very unfortunate. I didn't even hear that guy. The sound effects are terrible with this game, with the audio design. But you see I've exited the playable area right here, and so the enemies are backing up, and then eventually they will start to run away. So during that sprint animation, you can shoot them in the leg, knock them over, and then stab them with the knife, or you can rely upon the suplex setup process when they're running away. It doesn't have to specifically be in the torso area. You can also shoot them in the back, but it's important to make sure that your reticle is focused, and also that you're within the correct distance to actually punish the flinch animation that gives you the suplex. But he's gonna start running.
Yeah.
And that time, apparently, it was classed as a leg shot. I don't know why. Very awkward detection like that. Did you notice that running grab animation? The suplex setup process will not work if you're punishing long-range grabs or any kind of running attack animation. It has to be specifically when enemies are in a neutral state of sprinting. But what you can do is, when you get far enough away from the enemies, they'll start to sprint, and you can just focus your reticle like this and stun them. Yeah, and there's that crappy detection.
Ashley!
So as I demonstrated those couple of times, whenever the enemies are prioritizing Ashley and you shoot them in the stomach area and then try to knife them in the leg, if you fail and they recover from their stun animation, they'll primarily try to push you, but they will not really attack you, so they'll just try to go for Ashley, but of course, you'll be hitting them in the leg before they have a chance to do that. I don't know what happened just then. The knife's detection is utter garbage in this game. Did I hit a dead body? Did I hit the wrong body part, even though I was aiming for the leg? Yeah, it's one of the main problems with trying to do this suplex setup formation with just one bullet. It's a little bit better if you just use the second pistol shot. But of course, when you're dealing with enemies that hide their legs, it's really hard to tell where their legs are when you're trying to shoot them. That's why it's a little bit easier to use the knife. Not to mention, you save up on a bit more ammunition than that. And also, the suplex setup process is really only useful in situations where the enemies will not transform after the suplex. And there are a lot of enemies on this game that will transform after a suplex. So you really have to use this method in the correct sequences if you're going to succeed. Sorry that I can't make the commentary and the gameplay a bit more graceful, but that's just how awkward this game is and badly designed it is. But as I was trying to demonstrate before, in conjunction with the suplex setup formation, you can use the leashing tech on the enemies during specific combat encounters to actually save up on a bit more ammo in the process. It definitely helps because this game doesn't handle combat encounters very well. It doesn't handle ammunition very well, too. It hasn't really given much thought into how the sequences are meant to flow so that you have the right amount of ammo for later sequences. So, like, you have to pretty much cheese this bad game using technology like this. Ooh, also, that right there. That's another good thing to note. The shield guys are pretty easy to punish with this leash tech, because whenever they go into the running animation and you shoot them in the leg, regardless of whether it's a focus shot or an unfocused shot, you will always get the suplex stun. But the problem is, when they're running at you, hitting the leg isn't really possible, and a lot of the times when you do shoot them in the leg while they're running, they don't respond to the shot correctly. It's very weird that it works like that. So that's why it's better to punish shield guys when they're running away, and shield guys are so badly designed on this game. But that's definitely helpful, using the doors to slow the enemies down, because they are pretty delayed when opening the doors. So setting up the suplex is a lot easier to do because of that. So let's demonstrate the shield guy leash tech real quick. So he's leashing because he's backing up. You can approach him right now. I mean, as long as he doesn't really, like, see... Okay, I shot him during his startup frames just then, because I shot him during the startup frames of when he was setting up his sprint. You have to wait until he's in the neutral state of sprinting so that the shot registers. But as I was saying before, like, I was approaching him as he was turning around, and he wasn't really doing anything to attack me, even though I entered the playable area. Because as long as he doesn't hear you or see you when he's running backwards to his initial spawn point, you can punish him quite easily. And once again, you have to really make sure you're within the correct distance to run in to do the suplex. Because not only does it have bad detection, but the enemies aren't stunned for long. It's very awkward. There we go. As I showed again, focus reticle, target the stomach as they're sprinting, make sure they're in the neutral state of sprinting. They get stunned, then you can go in for the leg stun. If you're trying to use the knife, though, it's better to wait for them to do the attack animation, then knife, because the hit detection on the knife is terrible in this game. And that should set up the stun for the suplex very consistently. So, this is how you set up suplexes consistently, even on the highest difficulty, with unupgraded pistols and unupgraded weapons in general. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.